to LA Controversial, your inside guide to the more colourful side of life in the spotlight. She's appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone wearing nothing but plastic bubbles, has her very own art and design team called House of Gaga, and she's even been pigeonholed as an intersexual, whatever that means. Lady Gaga, born Stephanie Germanotta, studied at New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. But she was an early bloomer, creatively speaking, and withdrew in only her second year to test her musical wares in the business itself. While dabbling in drugs and performing in burlesque shows, she found her source of creative inspiration in the form of the glam-inspired hits of David Bowie and Queen. Recording success soon followed. Her ironically titled first album release, The Fame, reached #1 on the charts right around the world. Her ensuing Fame Ball tour was a mighty success.
We just did the Summer Sonic Festival in Japan, in Tokyo and in Osaka, and now we're here in Korea, and I'm going to do the Fame Ball for my fans tonight, and I just love them so much.
Lady Gaga's second album, The Fame Monster, capitalized on her success. The first single, Bad Romance, topping the charts around the world. Her next tour saw her share the billing with the super cool Kanye West. As per normal, she didn't hold back in her sales pitch for the event.
It's been fun to work on the design of the tour with him as we're finishing each other's sentences. It's going to be one of the most groundbreaking moments in touring history. I am sure of it.
But not everyone was thrilled with this lady's rise to the top. When the fashions of Christina Aguilera were compared with those of Lady Gaga's, Christina was quick to point out that she was completely unaware of Lady Gaga's existence and wasn't even sure whether she was a man or a woman. Above all else, Lady Gaga has understood the need to create an idea her fans can believe in. She exploits the combined power of music, performance and art to create her very own world. And she exploits that world to the hilt.
You know, you can download an MP3, but you cannot download a lifestyle. And the culture of music, the visual behind music, the dream of my show, and what I believe in about performance art and pop music, that's what compels young people to buy the hard album, and they want to eat it and smell it and taste it and put it in a sandwich.
A Lady Gaga sandwich? Now that would be a mouthful. Creative types are known for their sensitivity, and they don't come much more sensitive than burly Australian actor Russell Crowe. Back in 2002, he got quite upset when a poem he was reading as part of an acceptance speech got cut short, and he allegedly roughed up the offending producer at the after-party. Although Russell duly apologised, many believe that his tantrum cost him an Oscar for his performance in A Beautiful Mind later that year. BAFTA-gate was by no means the first time that Russell's temper had landed him in hot water. Back in 1999, he'd been caught on camera engaging in late-night fisticuffs in Australia's Coffs Harbour. The News of the World got hold of the CCTV footage and published grainy pictures of Russell apparently headbutting another man. Just what that man had done to goad the Gladiator star never became clear. But when Rusty got feisty in New York 3 years later, the whole world got the inside story. While filming Cinderella Man in New York, he was trying to phone his wife Danielle from his hotel. When he couldn't get a line out, he saw red and ended up throwing the phone at the head of the poor hotel clerk. The police arrived, swiftly followed by the paparazzi, and Russell was in headline news again, for all the wrong reasons.
He's charged with assault. This arose because he was trying to get his wife on the phone in Australia. He was in his room.
We gotta go.
He couldn't get a line, and there was a disagreement. It'll work out.
It worked out that Russell pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge and landed a $160 fine along with a conditional discharge. But he ended up paying the assaulted receptionist $100,000 in a civil lawsuit. Russell reportedly described the incident as possibly the most shameful situation that I've ever gotten myself in. And I've done some pretty dumb things in my life. Among the dumb things he's done, Russell also includes some of his creative choices. But he makes no apology for approaching both his personal and professional life with intensity and passion.
You can have a lot of great people involved in some really bad shit. It's got to be something, you know, really personal and intense with me. When I read it, do I actually begin to play that character pretty much immediately when I start reading the script? Do I engage in it? You know, I kind of call it the goosebump factor, which I've had the piss taken out of me for years for calling it that. But, you know, other people can do it for whatever their reasons are. My reasons are really personal.
The City of Angels has seen some pretty spectacular falls from grace over the decades. And it's fair to say that for the most part, when good stars go bad, they rarely get the chance to redeem themselves. But one former no-hoper who managed to claw his way back into Hollywood's good books in formidable style is Sherlock Holmes star Robert Downey Jr. For the first few years of his film career, he managed to cover up his addictions to various drugs and alcohol. But to those close to him, Robert was always a time bomb waiting to go off. In 1996, it all caught up with him, and he was arrested 3 times within a year on charges involving possession of such hardcore items as Mexican black tar heroin, crack, cocaine, and an unloaded Magnum revolver. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, but ended up in court again for flunking drug treatment programs and taking more heroin and cocaine.
We're on counter today, having taken on the last proceeding an admission of the defendant's violation of his probation. The purpose of proceedings today is to determine what the appropriate sentence should be.
At last, Robert seemed to be taking his situation a little more seriously.
Your Honor, I'm kind of shaking in my thongs here, probably because I'm about to be honest. I've been in your court many times before, as you know. Usually, other times I've been in court, my objective was, how do I end this situation? How do I put the legal ramifications of this disease behind me so I can get back to the business of choosing whether or not I'm going to ever arrest this illness?
During his testimony, he spoke frankly about his obvious self-destructiveness.
It's like I have a shotgun in my mouth, and I've got my finger on the trigger, and I like the taste of the gunmetal. Someone points a gun at me and says, stop, they're merely interrupting my business. That's why it has been so difficult for me to acquiesce to what's being asked of the court.
But as far as Judge Mirror was concerned, it was too little too late, and he handed down a 3-year jail sentence, much to the disgust of Robert's attorney.
I am shocked and saddened by the sentence today. I think it is wrong. I do not think it meets the ends of justice. It does not serve the community. It certainly does not serve Mr. Downey.
And it certainly did not spell the end of his troubles with the law. After being released from jail a year later, he was caught using drugs again and was sacked from his Golden Globe-winning job on the TV drama Ally McBeal. 3 years later, it was his Air America co-star Mel Gibson who gave him a chance to get back on track. No stranger to battles with substance abuse himself, Mel paid Robert's insurance bond so he could star in the all-singing, all-dancing film The Singing Detective. Despite the challenge, he had a lot of fun on set under Mel's direction.
The first time that we shot it, I literally was like, wait a minute, you have to let me kind of get my act together. We can't go, you can't make me get up while I'm still crying and dance some dumb song. And Mel was like, no, that'd be funny, that'd be funny. I go, I don't care if it's funny, it's not realistic. He goes, realistic? I didn't ask you to do, you know, the singing realist. This is called The Singing Detective. This is, come on.
Then he was ready to exorcise his demons in a supporting role in the psychological thriller Gothica. Robert's ability to hold things together may have had something to do with meeting producer Susan Levin during filming. They married 2 years later, and Robert has since credited Susan with keeping him away from the ever-present temptation of drugs. But he wasn't out of the woods yet, with producer Joel Silver still struggling to get him insured for the 2005 film Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Once again, Robert's cause was helped by his wife Susan, who was also one of the film's producers. After filming the 2006 film Fur, an imaginary portrait of Diane Arbus, he was ready to face the red carpet alone, while his co-star Nicole Kidman was playing a supporting role in husband Keith Urban's drug and alcohol rehabilitation. He was on great form, entertaining reporters.
Now, my character was just, I kind of like just try to be mysterious and talking, and there's a lot of stuff to do, you know what I mean? Sometimes I don't know what to do with my face. This time, obviously, it wasn't that big a stretch, because I know what I did. This is the most avant-garde interview in history. Yeah, is that a fisheye lens? Why don't you compose yourself and I'll catch up with you later.
He showed the same brand of self-deprecating humour at the premiere of a Richard Linklater film. A Scanner Darkly combined live action with animation and gave Robert the opportunity to continue the healing process by reliving the bleak days of his drug addiction.
I had these little fuzzy slippers. I had slippers.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
They were pink.
Because I've seen a couple tweakers in my life, and oftentimes, as long as you're not going to be leaving the house for 2 weeks, you might as well put on some slippers. So that really helped me dig into my character, aside from the 25 years of drug research I've been doing previous.
Life research, Robert.
I stand corrected.
With his confidence fully restored, he set his sights on snagging his first mainstream leading role in over a decade and landed the title role in the big screen adaptation of Iron Man.
I was surprised that I went after it as hard as I did, but in this case I had to, and it paid off, I think.
Having nailed that enormous challenge and being signed up for 2 sequels, he bravely put his hand up for the rather daunting prospect of playing an African-American in the Ben Stiller comedy Tropic Thunder. In just 4 short years, he'd gone from unemployable junkie to hottest property in Hollywood, and directors were falling over themselves to get him to front their movies. One of those who got lucky was Guy Ritchie, who approached Robert to play Sherlock Holmes.
You aren't aware, I had a hell of a summer, and it's made me much more viable to play a lead role than I might have in the past. And I thought the idea of Guy and the way his directing style and his strengths with a kind of very staid, you know, iconoclastic period idea like this was just kind of a no-lose situation.
Sherlock Holmes went on to win him a Golden Globe Award, sealing one of the most remarkable comebacks in Hollywood history, and proving that he's made of just as tough stuff as his superhero alter ego, Iron Man. She was popular cinema's leading lady of the 90s, with smash hits like Ghost, A Few Good Men, and Disclosure. Her star faded not long after, but since then she's never strayed too far from the public eye. Her 2005 wedding to toy boy Ashton Kutcher confirmed her status as one of the most self-assured women in Hollywood. At the peak of her success in the early 90s, Demi Moore posed nude for the cover of Vanity Fair, while pregnant with her second child to actor-husband Bruce Willis. The photograph was the focus of huge controversy, with some labelling it sleazy. Others praised it as a celebration of female empowerment. Demi continued to raise eyebrows and challenge the social expectations of women in controversial films like Indecent Proposal and Striptease. In 2008's Flawless, Demi once again turned her attention to the idea of women challenging the status quo. Set in the 1950s, the film tells the story of a woman who's overlooked for promotion and sets about robbing her employer.
And I think I look around at a lot of women, friends, who sit in that same position of struggling with devoting so much of their lives to their career and kind of the realization of what's really important. So it was, I think, a lot of very timely things as well.
However, it's Demi's personal life that has made the most waves. At the age of 40, she was branded a cradle snatcher for pairing up with 25-year-old punk star Ashton Kutcher. When she married her so-called toy boy 2 years later, the gossip magazine industry was still in shock. But Demi was making no apologies.
I think that his incredible love and support gives me greater courage to take more risks and always to strive to be a better person. And I feel extremely fortunate that he would make the effort, take time out of his day and schedule to come and be with me.
Still together after 7 years, Demi and Ashton have confounded predictions that the relationship wouldn't last. He's an icon of the silver screen. His sheer animalistic power in classics such as On the Waterfront and A Streetcar Named Desire redefined the nature of performance itself. Considered by many as the greatest actor of all time, he's none other than Marlon Brando.
Because he was the first, and he was an actor that stripped down, became raw, wasn't afraid, was a pioneer to really put real emotion and real just human angst and drama and suffering and compassion and put it on film, put it on the theater.
Marlon Brando was an early exponent of the method form of acting, drawing on real personal experience to find truth in his performance. But by the end of the 1950s, he gained a reputation as being notoriously difficult to work with, and his career faltered.
Brando was always the great actor, but at that time in his career, he was box office poison. He wasn't a bankable movie star. As a matter of fact, he'd run through a whole series of movies that didn't do business, that were failures, and he was just doing it for the money because he wanted to maintain his lifestyle. And then came along a picture that all of a sudden rekindled the spark.
That picture was Francis Ford Coppola's The Godfather. Marlon won his second Academy Award for his performance, but boycotted the award ceremony as a protest against the depiction of Native Americans by Hollywood film and television.
He was, again, a pioneer of his time that as a white man, and he grew up saying, I didn't know black people, but as a white man, he felt that he needed to get involved and change America.
But for all of his political seriousness, Marlon also knew how to play up. He was a renowned prankster on set.
This is a belt given to him by James Caan and Bobby Duvall on the set of The Godfather, Mighty Moon Champion, it says. They taught him the dubious practice of dropping his trousers in public, and they gave him this after he mooned the whole wedding sequence during the filming of The Godfather.
Keeping his pants on was clearly something of a problem for Marlon, fathering children with 3 different wives, his housekeeper, and one other woman who has steered clear of the public eye. Tragedy hit home for Marlon when his eldest son, Christian, murdered the boyfriend of his stepsister, Cheyenne. Marlon testified at the trial, but his performance did little for Christian's cause, and he was sentenced to 10 years jail. 5 years later, the tragedy was compounded by Cheyenne's suicide in Tahiti. Disillusioned by Hollywood and suffering despair over his family tragedy, Marlon ate himself into oblivion. By the mid-90s, he weighed over 130 kilograms. He died in 2004 at the age of 80.
He was a great guy, a great man, and a great father. And on this day, we all got to remember that he is the godfather of acting. and a great human being.
With a father who'd been a member of the extremist African-American movement Black Panther, and a mother who was a professor of English at Clark Atlanta University, Kanye West was destined to have a voice and to know how to use it. In fact, it's keeping his mouth shut that has proved Kanye's biggest challenge. It's certainly safe to say he has never suffered from a lack of confidence.
I realized that my place and position in history is that, I will go down, as the voice of this generation, of this decade. That will be the loudest voice. And, it's people that had the potential to do it, but they went on vacation. So while Justin was on vacation, I made albums, and it just came out to be that.
After making his mark as a producer of rap and hip-hop, Kanye burst onto the world stage as a solo artist with his 2004 release, The College Dropout, winning 10 Grammy nominations. Kanye's next release, Late Registration, was a massive commercial and critical hit, selling over 2.3 million units in the US alone. He was red hot and accumulating fans in very high places.
I like that song when we walked down, that one you showed me down the beach.
Hey Mama, by Kanye West, exactly.
Huh?
Early on, he used his star status to speak out against the negative depiction of homosexuals within the black hip-hop community. He then boldly spoke up for the rights of African Americans. But at the 2007 MTV Music Awards, he made it more personal, claiming he was overlooked as the opening act because he didn't have the right color skin. Losing out on all 5 of his nominations, Kanye went on to say that he would not be associated with MTV ever again. While the world accepted that outburst, it certainly didn't take too kindly to his 2009 indiscretion. During country singer Taylor Swift's acceptance speech for Best Female Video, Kanye leapt onto the stage and grabbed the microphone, proclaiming Beyoncé as the rightful winner. Criticism was scathing. Even President Barack Obama labeled him a jackass. But whatever is thrown at him, the man with the thickest skin in show business is unlikely to go away quietly. Since the untimely death of his manager mother Donda in 2007, Kanye has only strengthened his commitment to giving voice to his talent.
And now when I'm on that stage and I look out, I say, what am I gonna do with the rest of my life? Like, when does a real life start? Because I've sacrificed real life to be a celebrity and to give this art to people, which is great. It's great that I was able to do that too. So I'm not trying to shun that in any way, but it's definitely a catch-22 and it's bittersweet.